Hello, my name is Ralph, and welcome back to Story Time, a segment where I get to read you a story that I have been given permission to read off of Reddit from various different authors. And the story I've chosen today is called Ours, written by Because I Said So Too. The stranger with the knife said he didn't want to kill me, that he wanted to take it back. He'd stepped out of the alley into my path, and I saw the knife in his hand and my death in his eyes, and I understood. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me go back and explain. I saw the man and knew instantly he was a recipient of the procedure just like me. It was referred to as the second chance by the media, and called the regret by those of us who had it. It was a small chip inserted through the tear duct of the recipient's non dominant eye. A chip which was then grafted onto the user's prefrontal cortex. We called it the regret for a number of reasons. Aside from its prohibitive installation and maintenance costs, there were behavioral changes associated with it that made it hard to bear personally and socially taboo as well. The first issue was this. Once you had it done, people could tell. There was no way to hide it. One eye was slightly wider, looked almost tearful, and had a strange depth the other lacked. Those of us who had the procedure recognized each other. Secondly, those who had it complained of hearing a slight but maddening echo when conversing with others with the device. Additionally, users felt a persistent sense of deja vu. But the worst side effect was an unrelenting feeling of dissatisfaction with their life choices, decisions both big and small. The last side effect was the hardest to bear, and why most recipients eventually had it removed, or they chased the hours, as we called it, through violent self afflicted means. Going back an hour at a time to the moment before its implantation, and then choosing to not install it in the first place. I know that's confusing. Bear with me. It'll make sense in time. Most things do, because that's what it was. Personal time travel on your timeline of your consciousness, sent back from the moment of your death in 1 hour increments, sometimes more. Just enough time, hopefully, to make a change that will let you avoid your death, or possibly avert someone else's. Maybe. Of course, the metaphysical implications were staggering for those who thought about such things, but most didn't, or tried not to. It was an industry with practical and personal benefits as well as lobbyists. And industry marches on. Also, when it became publicly available in the early years of the 21st century, critics of the procedure, called temporalists or temps, were deflated to learn that the technology had been discovered in the 1960s and that a clumsier version had been used by government officials and law enforcement for over half a century to avert crises and disasters when possible. Once it was discovered that civil servants had been using it for over half a century, the personal user's time came around at last. Time travelers in pursuit of their right to happiness now walked among us, with distant eyes and twisted mouths, and one had just stepped out of the alleyway and stood confronting me now. He came out of an alley which I'd avoid next time and was holding a large steak knife against my chest. Its point dimpled the thin material of my shirt like a sharp, accusatory finger. Perhaps next time around I'd put on a heavy coat before leaving the house too, just to be safe. Listen and remember, he said urgently, his voice echoing with a slight reverb that set my teeth on edge, staring at me with eyes that were mismatched. One wet eye a little wider, with a depth that was disconcerting. I have a message from the future. In 27 years, a meteor will appear in the sky, too close to stop, too late to do anything about. If we discovered it sooner, maybe we could have done something to stop it. We will this time. You have to pass these coordinates backwards, farther backwards. Humanity's future depends on it. And then, with tears in his mismatched eyes, and with a voice choked by emotion, he passed the fateful numbers an hour backwards. And as he stabbed me again and again with my dying breath, I thanked him. Oh boy. So that poses some questions. First, the first one that comes to mind for me was, is it him? Is he the one that's killing himself? Does he not recognize himself? Um, because maybe people that get the procedure, um, they don't look in mirrors anymore because they don't want to see the weird difference between their eyes that they describe. Um, uh, the mismatched one wet eye a little wider with a depth that was disconcerting. Maybe they just don't want to see that in the mirror. So it could be interesting to find out that you know it was himself doing killing himself over and over again, going back, trying to go back far enough. Man, 27 years of doing that, man, that would suck. Um, but yeah, that'd be an interesting scenario to have to place yourself in. Um, two, the paradoxes that would happen because of this would be, you know, astronomical in in their quantity, let alone what would have uh, what, what would happen. Um, but it's still that this is actually a pretty cool concept. Being able to go back an hour in time to try to save your own life. You know, I'm assuming that if you die of natural causes such as old age, you can't exactly avoid that. But who knows? Maybe you can. Maybe you can go back far enough to where you can make different decisions and change the length of time that you live. But that would be like it'd be like a lot of trial and error. Well, if I do this, do I live longer? No. If I do this, do I live longer? No, I live less time. If I do this, do I live longer? Oh yeah, that works. Maybe if I don't eat that burger that I had on that one Tuesday back in 2018, uh, I won't die so soon. Oh, I don't know. There'd be a lot of burgers I'd have to avoid in that case. um, but I like this. It was a very interesting twist on time travel instead of being the typical. I'm going to go back in time and save this person's life or change this so this doesn't happen. Um, it's your own personal timeline instead, and from what it sounds like, it's not like actually going back in time where the future you goes back in time and now there's two yous in the same time. um it actually just like reverses time, or reverses you through time, so there's only one of you. um which is, excuse me, which if that's the case, that would mean that it couldn't have been him that was stabbing himself, so he has to have found somebody other than him that has the eye thing and done that. Man, still, that would be horrible. Although I guess you could just like find one person and work out a deal where you take turns killing each other and going back an hour. But that'd be hard to explain too. Man, that it's just weird to think about it because it's like, how do you know you're doing the right thing or killing the right person that is actually going to go back an hour and believe you? Man, there's so much to think about with this story. It's I like stories that are like this that make you think. So you have to come up with your own, basically your own ending. Like what happens in the end. Um, but I thoroughly enjoyed this story. Once again, this was Hours by Because I Said So Too. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell. Because when you ring that bell, you'll get notifications for every time I post new videos, which I do daily. I will see you guys next time. Until then, keep your head up and keep moving forward. This is Rafnum, signing off.